Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Mordian Glory video. And today guys, I want to do something a little bit different. I don't necessarily want to talk about some specific tactic in Warhammer or some unit or some latest meta watch thing. I want to talk about something that's fundamentally important. I want to talk about how to be a good tabletop gamer. How to win games, but how to be a good tabletop player overall. Because it's more than just winning games. That's a big part of it. But how to be the best tabletop gamer, Warhammer 40k, Warhammer, Age of Sigmar, whatever you play, how to be the best. How to be as good as you can be. How to be great. So we all know of great players. We all have heard of those people that go to LVO and win LVO. And if you win an event like LVO, you are essentially like the #1 Warhammer player in the world at that point. I mean, that is how, if not officially, that is the unofficial, you're the world champion for that year. That's how I see it. And there's loads of big events like that. You know, you've got London Grand Tournament. If you win the London Grand Tournament, you could be considered one of the best Warhammer 40k players in the world. Okay? London Grand Tournament this year's got like 700 people or something crazy already booked onto it. It's insane. It's going to be a massive event. But no one woke up one day, having never played a game of Warhammer 40k, went to an event like LVO, went to an event like LGT and won it. Okay? No one is born like that. Okay? The way you become the best Warhammer 40k player you can be is by practicing, is by playing, it's a bit of a cliche, maybe it's a bit of a life lesson, you know, because how we could use Warhammer 40k for a metaphor for how to succeed in life, but it simply comes down to you work hard at it. And I'm not just talking about playing games, although that is probably one of the most important things you can do. You want to be marinating, you want to be absorbing as much information as possible, and you want to be playing as many games as possible, okay? You want to be watching battle reports. You want to be watching videos like this. Of course I'm going to say that, but you know, bear with me. You know, I'm not, you want to be absorbing information constantly. You want to be thinking about it in the back of your mind. You want to be just, you know, if you sleep 8 hours a day, you work 8 hours a day, you've got 8 hours then to be thinking about whatever you want to be the best at. Whether, in this case, we're talking about 40k, you want to be the best player. You've got plenty of time to be practicing, to be thinking, to be list building. Before I've even gone into a game of 40k, I've probably written my list 5 times. I've probably played it out in my head 5 times. And then I'm going into the game and I'm just there and I don't care if I win or lose. This is if I'm practicing for a tournament. If I practice a tournament, when I'm practicing my list, I don't care if I win or lose. Okay? Every friendly game that you have, every practice game that you have down at the local club, every single one of them is a learning and is a training experience. You can have fun. I'm not talking about you have to be super intense and super rules lawyers every single time. Absolutely not. But every single game that you play, you learn. And that is what you have to do. You can go into a game and you can not care. And you can just, oh, I'm just rolling some dice and I'm just having some fun. Fine, you want to do that, that's great. But that's not what we're talking about here. Okay, that is a totally valid way to approach Warhammer, by the way. Because at the end of the day, it's just a game, right? But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about how to get better. So, you learn every single game. You don't have to worry too much about anything specific, but every time you play, you learn. Literally every, sounds crazy, every dice roll, you're learning something. If you want to, if you keep your mind open, if you make it like a sponge, you're learning something. Okay, I shot that grenade launcher at that target. That didn't work out so good. Let's try that for a few more games, a few more squads in the same game. Okay, I'm starting to realise I don't like grenade launchers that much. But those plasma guns every single game, they're tearing it up. Okay, so now I realise I need to include more plasma guns. That's the kind of thing that you need to play to really understand. Now you can read online, you can watch videos online that will tell you to include more plasma guns. And that will help you streamline the process a little bit. But until you actually play the game, you're not going to get a huge appreciation for the difference. You can read about it, but until you experience it, you won't understand that a crack grenade launcher is not the same as a plasma gun. Okay, not in this edition. So, playing games is really important. But like I said, watching videos, watching battle reports is also really part of the process. Because what you're doing there is you are marinating in the the mental jacuzzi. I don't even know what this means, but you're marinating in the juices of creativity, of thought, of improvement, and that's what it comes down to. Okay, we're going to keep this quite short, but that's what you need to be open to if you want to become a great 40k player. You need to be open to improving. You do not know every answer. I do not know every answer. Very, very few people know every answer to everything in 40k. That's why there are still lists that catch even the best players totally off guard. Okay, but it's probably going to catch them off guard once. Okay. Be open and learn more from, and if you go into a game and you get absolutely smashed, that's fine. But one of the worst things you can do is say, oh, it's just bad dice rolls. That's why when I see people say, oh, it was just bad dice rolls, it's like, okay. But there are so many mechanisms within 40k these days, even with 9th edition when they're trimming down on it a little bit, to manage your dice rolls. So if you were having bad dice rolls, that means you didn't have enough dice management in your list. If you're a Space Marine player that keeps finding his Hellblasters exploding and dying, then you haven't brought management. You haven't brought dice management in your list. And that's why I very rarely accept the term bad dice rolls. There are always exceptions that prove the rule. Always. But it comes into your fundamental list building before you even hit the table, and you can only really get this from experience. But dice management is part of it, and that's why I don't accept. But that's part of learning. If you have game after game after game, if you know you're having bad dice, then you have to put something in there to manage it. Orders, captains, lieutenants, canonesses, war bosses, all this kind of stuff. It's called managing the dice. It's a dice game, but you can influence that. And so what we're talking about is we're talking about playing games. But that's how you end up winning games of 40k, just playing and practicing, watching tactics videos, watching battle reports, learning, keeping your brain open, keeping your mind open, having an idea like, I want to be a pure infantry commander. Okay, that's great. You've started, you've got a tactic, you've got a niche, that's what you want to do. If you're going to become the best pure infantry player, if you're going to become the best tank commander, then you need to play game after game after game with that list. You need to hone it down. How was I? This is not, again, I hate doing these kind of things. It sounds like I'm breaking my arm, jerking myself off. But how was I able to take Armageddon Steel Legion to a grand tournament with 100 players and go 4-1? And the only list that I lost against was against a Blood Angel Smash Captain list. And I would have won that list if I'd gone first. It came down to one dice roll. Win or, come first, and I was going to win. Come second, I had probably 50-50. 40% chance of winning. With Steel Legion. Now bear in mind this was in 8th edition, when vehicles couldn't move and shoot without getting a mouse on to hit on their special weapons, heavy weapons. Bear in mind there was no modifier, there was no cap on stackers for modifiers. Okay, so I had units that were making me hit on 6s, or I couldn't hit at all because of crazy modifiers. I was using Armageddon Steel Legion, a nothing regiment by many people's estimations. You either run Katachan or you go home. This is back before Psychic Awakening. We didn't even have Psychic Awakening. Okay? Because I had been to a dozen events with my Armageddon Steel Legion. Because I had played dozens, plural, 30, 40 games with my Armageddon Steel Legion over the course of 8th edition. And this was one of the last events that I went to. I knew my list inside and out. I knew exactly what each unit could do. And that came with practice. I knew what my enemies could do. And he's not only talking. Why, even though I'm an Imperial Guard commander, this channel is so Imperial Guard focused, why do I have loads of non-Imperial Guard armies? Because if you go and play with those armies, you gain an appreciation and it expands your mind. It helps you learn things from the other side. That's why it's so important to keep your mind open, to be open to other tactics. And that's how you get better again. So not only are we talking, so if we're summarizing this, not only do you have to practice, and not only do you have to be keeping your mind marinating in the juices, in the creative juices, and thinking about things, writing lists, rewriting lists, but also what you need to be doing is keeping your mind open and getting other perspectives. trying other lists out, trying other armies out, so that you can come back and then incorporate that into your tactics. Like, okay, I know how durable this goddamn Death Guard are because I borrowed a mate's army, or I proxied something and I went and used it to get better, and now I know how durable Death Guard are by using them. But you know what? I really felt it when someone poured 4 las cannons into my plague marine unit, 5 las cannons. When someone just unloaded a Punisher tank commander into me with multi-melts and las cannons, I felt it. When someone smashed me with that demolisher, that's how I killed. That's when my plague marines stopped feeling durable. Okay, I'm going to incorporate that into my list now. That's what you've got to be able to do. You've got to be practicing, you've got to be thinking about it, and you've got to be seeing it from both angles. The last thing to talk about is not just about, it's a very important part, but it's not just about winning games of 40k. Okay, it's not just about winning games of 40k. It's about being a good overall player. Okay, it's not even the last thing. There's probably a few things to talk about actually, but thanks to why did I do the Great Mordian Restoration Project? Why did I do that? I wanted my army to look better. I wasn't happy with my painting skills. Now I could have stripped all the models down, sent them off to a commission painter, used the Patreon money to fund it, and had my Great Mordian Restoration Project done in 6 months. I could have done that. But I wouldn't have gained anything from that. I would have paid someone else, and I would have had an army, but I wouldn't have gained anything from it. By doing the Great Mordian Restoration Project the way that I've done, it's allowed me to develop 2 things. Number 1, my painting skills. If you look at my old models, if you look at the old Mordian 50th rifles, they were a joke. There was no washes, there was no undercoat, there was no consistent basing, there was nothing. It was terrible. It was embarrassing. And I was embarrassed to use those armies. Even if I didn't have a YouTube channel, I would have been embarrassed to use those models. And I wanted to learn how to do it better. So I took the models, I stripped them down, and I learned how to paint properly. I researched my paint scheme. The Mordian 50th Rifles new colour scheme is a really interesting one because individually the colours can be a little bit funny. You've got a dark green and a blue. They can sometimes not look like they go together. What's so important about this colour scheme for me is how it brings the whole army together. But I had to learn that. If you go back and look at some of the first models in the Great Mordian Restoration Project, they look totally different to these ones. There was no edge highlighting. There was no dry brushing. There was no filling the bases in, with the cracks in the bases. There was no additional basing details. And you know what? I'm still not satisfied with the scheme. So now I'm going back and I'm adding transfers and I'm adding freehand details to every single model. And you know what? I'm going to go back again. And I'm going to start adding fine details like teeth and eyes to every single model, to 500 guardsmen, 600 guardsmen if you include all the scions. I'm going to do that because I want to keep improving. And it's important to keep that in mind. Not only when you are playing a game, but when you are painting, you need to be open to improving. If something doesn't work, that's fine. You need to be open to constantly going back, revisiting and improving your mindset. That's why I find the painting side of Warhammer 40k so important, because it allows you to sit there and concentrate on something and to concentrate on what you're doing and to practice it over and over again, and it allows you to focus. A lot of the really, really good players in this game paint their own models, which is weird, right? A lot of people swap and trade armies, and that's absolutely fine. But even so, a lot of people still paint their own models. And the reason I paint my models is, one, I get a lot of satisfaction from it, I get a lot of enjoyment from it, but it also allows me every single day. I paint every single day, even if it's literally for 1 minute adding a wash onto someone's base. I paint every single day. I might miss the occasional one here and there, but we're talking by and large, a day doesn't go by where I don't pick up a paintbrush and paint. Pretty much an average, you could average out that I paint for 2 hours every single day. Monday to Sunday, paint every single day. Some days some Saturdays I'll sit down and paint for 10 hours. Some days during the week I'll only have 10 minutes. But if you average it all out, it's probably about 2 hours a day, every day. That is time that lets me focus. That is time that lets me coalesce my thoughts when no one's going to interrupt, when I'm just going to be able to sit there and think about Warhammer. And whilst I'm painting that plasma gun, I'm thinking, okay, how many plasma guns do I have? How many can I include in my list? So painting is not just about the hobby side of it. Painting allows you to focus your thoughts and to then start thinking about the models you're painting and what tactics you're going to include with them. But that's what it comes down to, a little bit every single day, working on it every single day. And that's what I think is probably one of the ways you can be really good at Warhammer 40k. And how to be really good at life. How to, if you want to use this as a metaphor, to get a bit cheesy, work at it every single day. If you want to be good at learning a musical instrument, I mean, I can't play a musical instrument, but my dad is a very, very good pianist. And one of the lessons that he was taught was that you always have time for half an hour's practice. You always have time for an hour's practice. And it's true. You always have time for half an hour of painting. Always have time. If you don't have time to play games, if you don't have time to paint models, then whilst you're doing something else, you've always got 10 minutes. You've always got 30 minutes a day to think about what you want to get better at, be it 40k or be it playing a musical instrument or whatever. That's what it comes down to, just focusing, organising, and being driven to do a little bit every single day. And that's how, if you do that, you'll be a fantastic 40k player. Because you've noticed I haven't talked about lists, because you can when you're doing all of this, you'll pick up good lists. You'll either develop your own or you'll find ones online and you'll get them and you'll get better at piloting them. It's all about just doing a little bit every single day. Anyway, I hope you guys have found this useful. I know it's a little bit different. I didn't even do the normal traditional introduction or anything like that, but I hope it has been useful to lots of people. That's how I try and get better at 40k. I'm not the best 40k player, not by a long way. I am an okay guard player. That's how I see it. But I never see, even if I went and started winning every single tournament, which I'm not going to do, but even if I did, I would still just think of myself as, okay, I'm just an okay guard player. I can do better. And that's the one thing to take away from this rambling bullshit video, is always be looking to improve. Always be looking at the next way you can improve. If you win 10 games in a row, still analyse what happened. That's the important thing. Anyway, hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider heading on over to the Patreon page. There will be a link down in the description below. I don't monetize any of my videos, and all the money that I get from the Patreon page gets invested straight back into the channel. I don't take any money out of it. I use it to fund things like the Great Mordian Restoration Project, painting supplies and stuff like that. I also use it to go to events and tournaments. Now things have been opening back up in the UK. I've got 3 or 4 events. I've got 3 events definitely booked. I've got my eye on a couple more as well. Helps pay for things like hotels and stuff like that. And last but not least, helps pay for equipment and an upcoming Mordian Glory YouTube studio, which is going to be a dedicated space. No more battle reports in the living room, guys. Dedicated studio. It's going to be absolutely amazing. I'm really excited to unveil it when it's finally all done. Should be done by the end of this month. End of this month, early next month, that's when we'll be getting battle reports going in the new battle bunker. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and of course, I'll see you guys next time.